This is the Sales Development Podcast, powered by Tenbound, hosted by David Dulany. My name is James Bawden, and I'm honored to be here to introduce episode 176 of the Sales Development Podcast, featuring the incredibly interesting entrepreneur, Martin Heibel. Martin is the founder at Ciara, the acceleration assistant for sales. Look, Martin and David have a fantastic conversation and get right into it. At minute 2, Martin talks to us about his path to building Ciara as a sales leader. Incredibly interesting to hear how this super powerful product was kind of born and thought of. At minute 9, Martin explains when to unleash the power of Ciara and making the most of those first scheduled interactions with prospects. That's really where this product shines, and Martin explains just exactly how important those first interactions are and how Ciara can help amplify and power those conversations to be successful. At minute 17, David and Martin discuss how to drive adoption with a tool like Ciara. Martin speaks about the challenge of building something that people want to adopt. It's about hard work and educating the market. Very, very interesting take there from Martin. Gotta tune in. At minute 25, the power of insights that Ciara provides, how it modifies frameworks for leaders and teams, is what David and Martin are talking about at this point. You have to make sure that you get all the way through for this entire just value-packed episode. This is such a fun conversation between Martin and David. As always, at the end, Martin shares how you can actually try out Ciara and how to connect with him one-to-one. As always, if you enjoy the episode, feel free to head over to tenbound.com, leave us a review. We always appreciate it. Enjoy episode 176 of the Sales Development Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sales Development Podcast. I am honored to have a guest from across the sea here, Mr. Martin Heibel, Ciara founder and CEO. How are you doing today, Martin?
I'm great. Thank you. And thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. What you're working on is super exciting, for the sales development industry, and just your expertise and your story with putting this together is amazing. So I'm really excited to get you on the show. Tell us about, your background in getting into this industry and what you're working on at Ciara.
Yeah, so at Ciara, we have developed a in-call assistant for SDRs and for sales teams. And what does that mean? It is a software tool that is running alongside your sales conversations, and typically initial discovery and qualification calls. That's where we have our sweet spot right now. And Ciara helps SDRs manage their calls and handle objections based on voice recognition.
Got it. How did you get into this?
So this is my second startup, my second software company. And in my first company, I was the head of sales and revenue. And what I realized there is if you want to train sales teams and SDR teams in particular, that is a very costly and time-consuming exercise. And for them, typically junior talent coming on the team, it is really hard to get their head around typically rather complex sale. And what we do today is pretty non-digital, if you will. So we teach people, we craft nice presentations for them. We have classroom training. But then when you look at how easy do SDRs find it to actually work with all that information, and even studies show that it's only a fraction, about 5 to 8% of the content that they are taught is actually available to them when they need it. So this is what I found remarkable, and also what I realized is a big challenge for growing sales teams. So that is the one side on my own entrepreneurial background. And then on the other side, I just realized that voice technology has come to a point where we can record voice very, very well. We can transcribe voice very well. latency tends not to be an issue anymore. So with the technology in place and the problem at hand, we basically thought about how can we combine those two. And we envisioned a product that would work along your sales call and work like a coach listening to you, with the beauty of that not being a coach and the associated cost, but a software that understands you and helps you navigate your calls.
Interesting. Okay. So how does it work then? So say that you're an SDR, you just went through the training and now you're sitting down, you're starting to call people. How does the AI, I call it like an AI coach or,
Sure. Yeah. It's a good term. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How does it work?
Yeah. So if you start from the framework, right, the sales development framework, basically a book like yours, and a framework that helps people to think about how they work. We basically take this content and put it into the Ciara software, and it comes out as a front end that will help you what points to discover, how to position your company, what questions to ask. So if you work around the MEDIC framework, just as one example, it would help you talk about metrics and decision-making processes and people involved. And by listening to what you ask, Ciara will basically detect what area you've touched and what you haven't, and it will prompt you not to get sidelined, or it will prompt you move on to the next important topic. Plus, when we hear typical customer objections, we can relate these to our battle cards. So if you hear, or if Ciara hears the customer talk about price being too high, time being an issue, decision-making not clear, we can basically bring up these battle cards right into your face based on what we hear or what we've heard over the last, say, 20 seconds.
That's so interesting because so there's a couple things. One is you can record a call and then the coach can go back and listen to the call, but that takes hours and it's a lot of sifting through data. And then there's companies that will take that and narrow it down into something useful so that you can start to see trends and things like that. But what's missing is what you're saying is like a person sitting on your shoulder, basically a little, coach on your shoulder who's actually in real time guiding you through the sales process. Is that correct?
That is correct. So what you're describing is, I would say, has been the current state of the industry, with recording conversations and then look at them after the call, which is certainly a help to a coach. But it has the big downside that most of these recordings are never listened to anymore because no one has the time to do that. So insight is somewhat limited. What we do is we take insights from these recordings and we don't go through a coach, basically. Ciara is the coach in real time. So before you actually hang up as an SDR, we will be able to help you navigate the conversation. And how is that possible? That is possible because we start with a framework, right? If you just record a call, and no AI software or what have you will ever be able to know what to look for, if you will. The beauty of a coach, a human coach, they have the same framework in mind. So they can relate to that mentally and then give you a nudge and basically say, hey, ask for next steps or ask for the financial decision maker. And Ciara can do that as well because we have the semantic framework on which we compare the call to in real time. That's what makes it so powerful.
Got it. Okay. So the other thing is with the SDRs, on the front end, so they're having very brief conversations, and it's also important to notify the person that they're being recorded or, there's that type of thing. At least here, at some states, they require that you notify the person at the beginning. And so it's tricky with stuff like this. How do you deal with the fact that, there's regulations and then there's also a brief conversation? You can't really get much done if they just hang up on you like immediately,
Yes, right. Yeah. So first of all, we're not solving the issue of making someone want to talk to you who doesn't want to talk to you. That's a hard challenge for any AI as well, I guess. Ciara is not for high volume cold call outbounding calls. That's not where we have our strength. Why not? Because typically out of 100 calls, there's only 2 or 3 that lead you anywhere. We come in when leads our initial contact is at a point where they agree to talk to you. And then this is this is prime time, right? These are the moments that companies, our customers, they've spent up to $5,000 just to get that call. And it really matters what's happening there. And this is where we come in, right? This is where we just want to get the best out of these 30 minutes. On the regulatory side, fully agreed. Being a company with German DNA, data protection obviously is important to us and is built into our product. So how do we handle that? We have two options here. One is you only record yourself. So you don't even have to ask your customer whether they want to be recorded or whether they would agree. And that will still give you basically half of the insight. Ciara will still be able to pick up what you've covered and what not. We will detect keywords in your questions and understand context, and will basically tell you after 20 minutes that, decision making has still not been addressed, or the customer pain point questions or nothing similar to the customer pain point questions has actually been detected. So the product still works even without recording the customer. And if you want to record the customer, we ask you to ask for consent. As much as, you've just done through this call here using the Zoom tool, it's basically established standards.
Got it. Okay. And so once they're in, how do you enter your sales process into the system? I'm just curious. So say you're using Medic and you've got the Medic process. How do you input that into the system to make sure that the salesperson is using it consistently?
Yes. So we have, technically speaking, it's a template-based system. So you can have as many frameworks as you want, and Medic would just be a framework to start from. And then you can modify these. So you can have a particular framework for a particular target group, for a particular product, or for a campaign that you run, where some of your messaging or some of your questions might be different. So this is how it works technically. And what Ciara is also able to do is to basically combine several calls that are related to the same template or the same deal, as we call it, basically combine insights from various calls into an overall overview. So if you work around a SaaS sales process, then Medic is typically the discovery phase, but you will then have a demo phase, you will have a deal a development follow-up phase, you will have closing phase. So we can basically have a template that covers the entire process and a multitude of calls that add to the overall view. And based on what we've learned from, say, calls 1 to 5, we will be able to guide you in call 6. That's how it works.
Amazing. Okay. And so you also mentioned Zoom as well. So a lot of people use Zoom. Can it plug directly into Zoom, or do you have to, log into something else?
Both is possible. So you can use our own meeting functionality, which has certain upsides in terms of, easy to use, no integration needed, very clear and easy detection of the audio signal. Those are, these are the things you can do with the Ciara tool all out of the box. But then it can also dial in so we can basically use the Zoom live streaming feature to get audio from Zoom. So you can connect to Zoom. And our goal is to get the audio signal no matter where it comes from. So this is how the product is designed to work. As long as you sit on a machine that has a audio signal from both sides of the call, we can make Ciara work. And we want to be agnostic and not be tied to any existing tool that is currently out there in the market.
Smart. Okay. So let me ask you, in making this, what has surprised you as you look at the people using the product and things that they're doing? Everything is kind of going according to how you thought it would, or are there things coming up that you're like, wow, I didn't realize?
Yeah. I mean, when you start a company, you are always way more optimistic than it actually turns out to be. I guess you know what I'm talking about, being an entrepreneur yourself. That said, what I found interesting is, even for somewhat professional sales organizations, how hard it is for companies and also for sales development leadership to actually implement stuff into a team. So many would say we work around the Medic concept, for instance. But if you then drill in and just, pick 10 random deals and have a look how well this concept has been applied and how clear it is to everyone working on the deal, I find it interesting how hard it is for companies to get that implemented. I assumed that would be more daily routine than it is in many cases. So that is more on the customer side. And I think you can relate to that from your own. Would be curious to get your view on that, but from your own business.
100%. Oh, yes. I mean, well, from a business perspective, everything takes, 10 times longer. It's 10 times more expensive, 10 times more frustrating than you could ever imagine. Not to turn anybody off of, entrepreneurship, but I'm just being honest in my experience. Right? But to your point, I think it's interesting because, people are not machines. They're these emotional, gushy. I don't know how do you describe it, but they're not computers, right? So you give them the framework, you give them the training, you give them a tool, but then they just go back to doing whatever they were doing because I think that's human nature, right? So how do you work within that reality?
Yeah, exactly. And that is, that's the second big challenge, obviously. Everyone, from a more technical perspective, everyone agrees that, these voice analytics capabilities are fascinating. Everyone agrees that getting help on a call is a big personal benefit. Everyone agrees that CRM is broken, and if an assistant can capture stuff from your call and make that available to you in the next call, that's exactly what you want to have and want to do. But when it comes to actually getting this implemented and get people to use Ciara more than the CRM and turn on the voice transcription and all that, it's just a change in their behavior. And I mean, I've built businesses before, and I know hundreds of entrepreneurs, they all face that same challenge. It's really hard to make people change their routines. And we're working on that with every new feature, with every new cool thing coming in. There's more people adopting the product, but it usually, as an entrepreneur, to your question, you think this product you envision, you're going to build it, you're going to put it out, and people will love it, right? And what typically happens is you build the thing, you put it out, and nothing happens. And it's just normal. It's really just normal. And then you need to start learning and talk to people and understand, why is it not working? What are you missing? And also be very persistent and, never take a no for no. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I taught entrepreneurship at university. And I think it's one of these general insights on entrepreneurship. It's not about the idea. It's really about hard work and, educating the market. And that will take some time. And we built this company with a 10-year perspective. So we're enjoying what we're doing, even if it doesn't work on the first shot.
Yeah. Yep. And it's so many things there, because I think of, some hit products that really took off. They started as completely different companies. I think of like Twitter, for example, it was a internals project or something like that. And there was another one, I can't remember, but
yeah, Slack used to be a gaming community, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden they realized that, that was the thing that people actually needed, not the primary thing. And it's interesting because, you, from a product development perspective, like you put in a ton of work on a product, you put it out to the market, and nothing happens. Nobody wants it. And a lot of people, I think, you stop there, especially if you're bootstrapped, because you already put all the money into the product. It flopped. Now what do you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's these overnight successes that take 10 years to build. Probably heard that before as well. I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, we are super certain that the product that we're building will be solving a huge problem to sales teams globally. And it's, as I said, basically, if you think this to an end, the Ciara assistant will be able to listen into all your calls, make sense of what's being said there, put it into perspective of what I call a framework. Today, frameworks are fields in CRM systems, right? People say, this is our opportunity. It has a probability and it has a decision maker and it has, fields A, B, and C, and D. And that's just it's a simplification of the world. So what we're basically trying to feed stuff into databases, which is in fact totally disturbing everybody's workflow, and it costs a lot of money, and that's why it doesn't Actually, typically, CRMs don't work for that reason. So if you think the CRM, the CR system, if you think it to an end, it will be the next generation of business software, which today is CRM. The CRM is before and after you have the conversation, just because we have no better technical way of doing it. The best way we have is putting fields in a database manually. That's how we do it. Now, if we can just listen into calls and understand what's actually going on there, there's no need to have a field in the first place, and there's no need to put in anything manually in the second place. So that's, this is the big opportunity that we see with sales assistants or CRM in particular.
And it seems
will take some time.
What's that? It will.
It will take some time.
Yeah, and it seems like it benefits both sides of the sales team in that the rep can learn on the fly as they're going through the call. They're actually actively being coached. So hopefully that's helping their skill development and having them become a better rep. And then also it seems like on the manager side, there's a lot of data that could be potentially analyzed, to see where the framework is working well, but then there's other areas where it's not working as well. Do you see that happening as well on the management side?
Yes, absolutely. So we really have these two perspectives, and we start with the user perspective. So we're really eager to provide a product that works for the SDR primarily and first. And that is around guidance, as you said, and documenting their stuff automatically. No more note taking, right? This is where we can get them. But then there is the manager side. Obviously, they are interested to understand what's going on there, and we can provide them with insights both on performance of individuals, but also on deals. So we can look into any deal, and there is no, updating your pipeline anymore. It's an objective view on the data, on the stuff that has been discussed. If if Ciara doesn't see any pricing discussion or any timeline discussion, the deal is just not there, no matter what anyone would have put into a CRM. And that will, voice analytics or voice as a way of capturing information. It provides you, I would say, 100,000 times more information on what we captured today. And that is obviously interesting for managers too.
Oh, yes, 100%. And it's almost like from a simplicity perspective, it's, the green light is we're doing really well in this part of the framework. We're good at the beginning or the answering, opening questions and things like that. And then there's a red light here because we're really dropping the ball across the whole team, in closing or something like that. So that seems like super powerful versus just the static CRM view that you have.
Exactly. And what you would do today is you would try to analyze your CRM data, hopefully get to an insight like this, which is questionable in the first place, but hopefully get to an insight like this. Then you would think about what should we do to close more or better. Then you would train people on doing that, and then you would let them do their calls again. What we can do is we detect that the closing stage is where things are stalling, and Ciara can nudge people based on the framework. And it's super easy to modify the framework, right? So if you have, as I said before, if you have a campaign going on, or if you see that there is a particular need to position yourself against a competitor to actually close better, then you just put it into people's faces across the world in real time the next morning. This is how it's going to work. It's not about coming up with a training program and needing weeks and months to get people trained on that. And this is, this is the power of such rich data.
That's the future for sure. I mean, and if you look at the CRM, well, now, with what you're doing, but also, the CRM is sort of, you look at it like a file cabinet, it's just a place to put data, and it's great, and there's all these millions of apps, that you can put in the app store to make it more powerful. But, it's kind of 20-year-old technology now, and you need a layer on top. And I think that's why the call recording and analysis vendor space is so hot, because it's like, wow, I could do a lot with this. What you're talking about is taking this to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. The missing link so far has been to actually put this inside these analytics into people's calls right when they need it, when they can still influence the way forward on that particular call and make it accessible to them in light of a certain set of goals, say, or framework, whatever you want to call it. This is the step forward we're taking now. And the next step will be, as you said, CRM it's there to stay. I'm totally not saying CRM will be replacing CRM anytime soon. But what you currently see, there's a lot of enablement tools as well that are trying to make it easier for people to update the CRM system, just because it's so clunky and so time consuming to actually do that. I think that is also an important step forward. But again, insight from voice will change that massively in the future.
Definitely, for sure. Well, I can't wait to see the progress, man. This is amazing. How do we check out the product? Can they do a trial, or do you have to become a customer right at the beginning?
No, absolutely. I was just commenting on that. So you can go on our website, get Ciara, that's Ciara.com, and sign up. And right there, we have a couple of sample templates that you can pick from. One is the BAND framework, one is the MEDDIC framework. So it will be self-explanatory. And just turn on the transcription. And as you talk, use it in your next call. As you talk, you will see how Ciara detects context and gives you feedback on what has been covered during the call and what not. So this is all it's available out of the box. There's no coding, no setup, nothing. You can just play around with it. And if you like it, reach out to me and we'll help you set it up for your team.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing and coming on the show. Let's see. Can we connect with you on LinkedIn if they hear about this and they want to learn more about what you're doing?
Yes, absolutely. So find me on LinkedIn, Martin Heibel. That's Heibel, and Get Ciara, or Ciara is our getciara.com is the website. Ciara is our company name. We're on LinkedIn. I'm looking forward to connecting with all of you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Martin, and good luck with everything.
And thank you, David. Nice talking to you today. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Development Podcast, the only audio forum 100% focused and dedicated to sales development, with your host, David Dulany. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube and take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes. Your support makes our show possible. If you are struggling with your sales development program, contact us at tenbound.com for a no-obligation exploratory call. Again, that's tenbound.com.